Okay guys, in this video we're going to talk about conditional statements. And conditional statements is a Unit 1 topic that involves logic. So get your graphic organizers and let's get right to it. What is a conditional statement, first of all? Well, a conditional statement sets up a relationship between two individual statements. A conditional statement usually is written using an if and a then. So it's usually if something happens, then something else will happen. The statement following the if in the conditional statement is called the hypothesis. After the then in a conditional statement, that statement is called the conclusion. Okay, so let's look at an example. A very easy example that I can give you right here is if you are a student of North Oconee, then you are a Titan. Okay, let's identify the parts first. The hypothesis in this case is you are a student of North Oconee. It came after the if-then statement. The conclusion is that you are a Titan. If you are a student of North Oconee, then you are a Titan. So after the then gives you the conclusion. Let's look at this in a little bit different way. I have a picture set up here. The picture on the left represents the hypothesis, if you are a student of North Oconee, and the shield represents the conclusion, then you are a Titan. At the bottom of the screen you'll see that we can represent each of these statements with variables, and this is the symbol notation for the statement that I just gave you. So we read the statement at the bottom, if P then Q, okay, where P is the statement or the hypothesis, and the Q is the statement that comes after the then or the conclusion. Okay, well, let's switch around these and see what they're called. First of all, if we flip the hypothesis and the conclusion, we get what is called the converse. The converse takes, just as I said before, the hypothesis and the conclusion and swaps places. Okay, so in this case we put the shield first and then we put the North Oconee symbol. And at the bottom in symbol notation we say if Q then P. Okay, well, if we write the statement out, the converse would actually be if you are a Titan, then you are a student at North Oconee. Well, the converse doesn't always have to be true. In this case, if you're a Titan, you do not necessarily have to be a student of North Oconee. There's a school outside of Atlanta that is Blessed Trinity. Blessed Trinity, they're the Titans, so they are Titans, but they are not students of North Oconee, so that would prove the statement to be false. So not all of these statements that we're going to produce are going to be true. Let's take a look at it at a different instance. This is called the inverse, and the inverse takes the original statement and doesn't swap the order, but instead it negates them. So negate just as in changing a positive to a negative or a negative to a positive. Okay, so we leave the North Oconee symbol and the Titan symbol in their place, but we take the opposite of them. Okay, and in symbol notation you see the little tilde at the bottom represents the not, and we read that if not P, then not Q. Okay, symbol notation is at the bottom, and if we look at the pictures, so we're going to kind of see that we're going to put not in there, and the not's going to give us the inverse that we're looking for. Alright, so let's take our statement and write the inverse. The inverse would be, if you are not a student of North Oconee, then you are not a Titan. Well, once again, that is the inverse, but it's not true in all cases. Take the kids from Blessed Trinity again. They are not students of North Oconee, but they are still Titans. So the inverse is not proven to be true at all times. Okay. The last example is the contrapositive. The contrapositive actually does negate both the hypothesis and the conclusion, and it swaps their places. So, to review, the converse switches the positions, the inverse keeps the positions but negates them, and the contrapositive switches the positions and negates them. Okay? The contrapositive notation at the bottom is written, or you can say it this way, if not Q, then not P. Alright, flip the slide here, and you can see that the contrapositive is written, if you are not a Titan, then you're not a student of North Oconee. Well, in this case, this is true. We've proven in the original statement that if you're a student of North Oconee, you're automatically a Titan. So if you're not a Titan, then that rules out that you are a student of North Oconee. Okay? So let's say you're a warrior, then you're not a student of North Oconee, you're a student of Oconee. Okay? What you're going to find is that if the original statement is true, the contrapositive is also going to be true. And if our converse was true, then the inverse would be true as well. The converse and inverse relationship kind of go together, and the original statement and the contrapositive statement the relationship goes together there. Okay? Alright, now we're going to give some more examples, but we're going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to play some music here, and we're going to get our next examples from a few videos that I have. So let's take a look. Here's our first video.
If I die young, bury me in satin, lay me down on a bed of roses, sink me in the river at dawn, send me away with the words of a love song. Oh-oh, oh-oh, Lord, make me a rainbow.
Alright, I'll stop it right there. You can tell I can kind of bounce my head to that all day long. It's a very catchy song. Very popular song right now, but the conditional statement I want to take a look at right now is, if I die young, bury me in satin, which is a lyric from the band Perry. Okay, so go ahead and write that down on your graphic organizer as your next example, and we're going to find the hypothesis and the conclusion, and we're going to write the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive of this lyric. So right now, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can identify both the hypothesis and the conclusion and write the other three statements. Okay, see you in a second. Okay, so you're playing the video now. You should have all that written down for the band Perry. So let's take a look. The hypothesis in this case is, I die young. If I die young comes after the if. The conclusion would be, bury me in satin. Although a very sad song, if you actually go and do some research on the song and what the lyrics mean, it doesn't actually focus on dying. What it says is that you should not take advantage of life and live to the fullest every day, so that if you do die young, then you can say that you lived a full life. A little bit of a side note there. So let's look at the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. The converse would be, if you bury me in satin, then I will die young. Well, basically it switches the hypothesis and the conclusion. Okay, sounds kind of weird, but that's the answer. The inverse would be, if you don't die young, then do not bury me in satin. Could you imagine that being the lyric? The order stays the same, but you're negating, and the way we negate is by adding the word not. If I don't and do not bury me. Okay? Last but not least is the contrapositive, and you're going to switch the order and negate. So if you do not bury me in satin, then I will not die young. Kind of funny. Alright, let's go to another example. This one's kind of for all you Nickelodeon lovers out there, including my son. This is a new song out right now.
We got a new single for you guys called If I Ruled the World. You guys want to hear it?
If I ruled the world, I'd throw all the money in the air like confetti. If I ruled the world, every house got a DJ in a backyard party. If I ruled the world, I'd dream that loud. So everybody get up, out of your seats, kick off your shoes like you're down at the beach, and jump up on the beat, singing, hey, if I ruled.
Oh, the music stopped. Okay, I gotta keep going with this. Alright, so if you don't know who Big Time Rush is, then you're not watching TV. If I ruled the world, I'd throw all my money in the air like confetti. What a great lyric. Okay? So, same thing as before. Write this down in your example on your graphic organizer, and what we're going to do is we're going to find the hypothesis and conclusion and write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive. So go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and do that on your paper. Okay? Okay, we're back. Now we're going to identify the parts of the Big Time Rush lyric. The hypothesis is I rule the world. It came after the if. And after the then, we say I throw all my money in the air like confetti. Actually, I wouldn't. I'd keep it in my pocket. All right, let's write the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. The converse would be, if I throw all my money in the air like confetti, then I'd rule the world. Inverse, negate both sides. If I do not rule the world, then I wouldn't throw all my money in the air like confetti, which is probably true, because I don't rule the world, and I'm still not going to throw my money in the air. The contrapositive switches the order and also negates, so if I wouldn't throw all my money in the air like confetti, then I do not rule the world. Alright, very good. 2 good examples there. Alright, now I'm going to give you a couple more examples, and I'm not going to tell you the answers on the video, but instead I want you to write them down on your graphic organizer, and I want you to bring them into class tomorrow, and we'll look at them together. Now the next one's kind of an old one, but you'll see in a second why I wanted to include it. So this is for all you disco fans out there. Oh, let's go back one. There we go. All the disco fans, here we go. Saturday Night Fever here, John Travolta. But you can see in a second why I added this one to the PowerPoint. It's a little bit of me. Dance, a little dance. Random dancing there.
When there's got to be no chance for me, my life will end. And it doesn't matter how I cry, my tears are young.
It's a very old video.
If I turn away and I'm strong enough to see it through,
Right?
I'm crazy is when I
Come on, karaoke people.
if I can't have you,
I can't have you.
I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you, if I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. If I can't have you,
Alright, so you see the lyric there is, if I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. Okay, and that is by the great Yvonne Elliman, who probably that was her only song. I've never heard of her before, I just know that song. But you see, I included this one because it already has negatives in there. So be careful when you're doing your converse, inverse, and contrapositive. Tricky, tricky. Alright, one more song for you to do on your own and turn that in tomorrow. And here it is.
Yeah, you know what it is. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah, you know what it is. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Yeah, you know what it is. Everything I do it big. Yeah, screaming that's nothing. When I pulled off the lot, that's nothing. Here up in my town, when you see me, you know everything.
It's too late.
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. I put it down from the whip to my diamonds. I'm in black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow.
As my son would say, they should change it to black and red because black and yellow is for the bumblebees, which he's talking about Georgia Tech. So that's right. So the lyric is, you know what it is, black and yellow. Now, it's not in an if-then statement, but could you write it in an if-then statement? Okay. And so I want you to identify the hypothesis, the conclusion, the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. All right, a little bit of fun here. Fun with music. We'll do some more examples at school, but have those ready for me. And I want you to see that, hey, math can be this fun. See you guys.